Right. Right, so we declare the meeting open at 1:02 and welcome the council members, staff, members of the public, and Chair Stephen Idrick of the Independent CCO committee is up there as well. Welcome everybody and members of the public who may be watching the live stream. We will start with the opening karakia. Right. Kia hora te marino, kia whakatapa te mano te moana. Ei hurahei, mā tātou. Ai tū rangi nei, aroha atu, araha mai, tātou ie, tātou katoa, hui e, whake. And I think next time we'll set up a rotational schedule. Right, moving on to apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Phelps and from Councillor Davidson. No other apologies. Can I move for a seconder, please, and resolve that the apologies be received and accepted? Councillor Burden, Councillor Baird, thank you very much. All in favour? Great, thank you very much. Declarations of interest, the register's been circulated. The interest register's been updated. Councillor Burden has made some removals. Okay. And some additions, the addition being the St John West Coast Area Committee. Please also ensure everybody's up to date with what they've got on and any transitions and changes, please advise Guy and or Penny.
So, through the Chair, just going nicely into item 4, can I just advise councillors that we've withdrawn 2 items from today's agenda. One of them was the Department of Conservation presentation. If you remember, it was about feral cats. Unfortunately, the dog representative that would have done it is unwell, so we removed it from today and moved it to April 17th meeting, so they should be able to attend to it. The second is the local water donor justification document, and I've got a slightly longer explanation of that in the April 17th meeting.
Shut the door, please. It's a public meeting. Sorry, thank you. Sorry, yes, it's noisy, but yeah, thanks.
Sorry, through the Chair. So that updated report will not be considered today. There's a report for the adoption of the local waters done better. It was amended.
There was a rescinded amount because if you remember the resolution previously was that the local waters done well would be running in parallel to the LTP document that we're hoping to be adopted today. We were going to get that adopted and run it for consultation in parallel with the LTP. But we had some further updates from DIA and also from colleagues on the coast that have shown that actually there's some additional information that we should at least explore before we've got full information to go out for consultation. So what I've requested is that we have an opportunity to do that, and then we will put the amended or final draft consultation document for the local waters done well to the April 17th meeting. It's just in the interest of fullness. The paper that we provided wouldn't have included the most up-to-date information, so we just wanted to make sure we had that opportunity. It won't inhibit the consultation process for the local waters done well because it's not linked to the LTP. It essentially just means that we will run it 3 weeks behind where we originally planned it to go. But the consultation process will be the same.
So will we be voting on the amended report today?
There is no amended report. All we've got at the moment is the original draft consultation document for local waters done well, and that has had no work undertaken at this point. And so what I've done is I've withdrawn that to enable myself to be able to do that work, to then represent the document in April 6th. So is that clear?
Yeah, I'm just confused why an amended report was circulated just before the meeting.
Oh, that's actually the report that outlines the fact of why we've revoked the resolution that the local waters done well would go at the same time as LTP. So standing orders identify that if we agree to resolution, i.e. that the local orders done well will be circulated and consulted with at the same time as the LTP, and then I've asked for that to be rescinded, I have to actually put a proper report into the council for that to happen. I think that's what you're just saying.
Well, it's the report that's operation of recommendation local water done well. And what that report is, there's some subtle little changes to the wording in the options. So I'm just wondering whether
It's given an explanation of what we are looking to do in the interim to bring the paper back, but there is no amended document. It's merely giving a bit more full explanation of what we wanted to explore. No, we've got new information to say.
so we're discussing that then later.
Yes. I'd like to move through the process so we get an understanding and also complete a couple of previous meetings.
Because I probably have a different opinion on the wording. We'll discuss that
That's
later.
fine, we'll discuss that when we get to that time in the meeting. So with that update from Barb, and everybody has those notes in front of them, I need a move and a seconder, please, so we can resolve that in accordance with section 46A7 of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, and under section 9.12 of Council's adopted standing orders, the following item be added as an urgent item not on the agenda for Council's consideration, which is the establishment of a water services internal business unit, local water done well resolution rescind. I have a move and a seconder, please. Councillor Beard, thank you very much. Councillor Manera, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Right, moving on to minutes of meetings. Ordinary council meeting minutes of 27 February. We're resolving that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 27th of February 2025 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for that? Councillor Gillette, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Beard, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried. Right, and I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed ordinary council meeting minutes of 27 February 2025. Second on that list are minutes to be received from standing committees. It's the Risk and Assurance Committee meeting minutes of 7 November 2024, and the resolution is that those meetings be received. Can I have a move and seconder, please? Councillor Burden, thank you very much. Councillor Neal, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, thank you, everybody. So with that, we'll move on to the action list. And ask the Chief Executive to speak to that. Thank you.
I will take the action list as read, but I do note that item 3, which is the Department of Conservation Feral Cats, because it went out before we corrected, that should say that due to being unwell, this will be rescheduled to the next meeting. Otherwise, I'm happy to take questions on any of this commentary that's there. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
If I can, I just think on that point 4, it's got holistic CBD parking strategy. I think the strategy is a lot more than just a parking strategy. We just need to have that capturing that.
And just for things for folk around the table, the conversation that has been started with the Mayor is that we reconvene the CBD working group, and we look to do a workshop and bring in Paul Cezanne, who's at Bulla, who's a planner, just to give us some ideas around principles that we can then actually have a framework to work from, rather than just looking at this as but that's yet to be scheduled, but just if you thank you.
Yes,
just some clarification around the terms of reference for the Consent and Compliance Committee. What's the reason that's happening they involved in that committee?
I'm sorry, I've been scheduling it for me.
Okay.
That was
And it's just a workflow based, isn't it? So it can come to us.
I'm happy to send, I could send a draft out before and then we can discuss it, maybe if people would want to, but it's probably better to do it in May than all at once. And if people don't object, I know there's a keenness to see it. But it's taking them, and to be honest, it's taking a bit on the trial pieces a wee bit on, so it hasn't quite made it to the top yet. But I've scheduled it to be done today.
And consider we've got the long-term plans already, yeah, made. Keep that with made. Councillor Clear.
Sorry, Chair. In terms of, if there's a action on the action list relating to a committee activity council, I'm just wondering, I keep mentioning the review of the management, marketing and maintenance of the cycle trail, which is a resolution passed in June, and there's been no action on it, apart from a committee being formed, and I don't know what the purpose of the committee in relation to that outcome that we agreed to back in June. So I'm wondering whether we should add that particular piece of work to the action list, so that we can actually have a date, and then we have something tangible that this committee can then get teeth into and work for the benefit of the trail and those who use it.
Just in response to that, the working committee for the West Coast Wilderness Trail was formed as a response to that. We have the terms of reference to cover at our next meeting with that, in which time then a report will come back to council on the structure of that working committee and what they're going to be charged with doing going forwards. So they haven't been sitting idle. It's been a wider discussion and several meetings with stakeholders, shareholders and everybody else.
Through the meeting, we have tried to schedule out, but it's too short a time, so we schedule it out to try and get as many people there as we can. It's a wee bit short for people there to attend.
Are you saying that the terms of reference will specifically address that resolution that was passed in council? Is that to be decided as part of that meeting when eventually it sits?
I'm not sure what the point
Well,
you're
the
trying to make.
resolution is still sitting there. We agreed, we sat around the table and said, yes, that's a good idea, we should do a review. And now you're saying that this is a piece of work part of the review committee, cycling review committee. So is it specifically in terms of reference? Review the management, marketing and maintenance of the trail?
That's what the scope of work is within it. It's looking at the
It
structure.
will be in the terms of reference.
Oh, that's what terms of reference are.
But the terms of reference, according to the agenda that was for the meeting was cancelled, where the terms of reference were to be discussed and defined. So it doesn't clear to me that what you're saying is actually going to happen.
Well, I think that's a discussion point for the meeting then. The shareholders here.
Well, if the intention is to proceed that piece of work through the committee, then that would be something that I'm pushing to ensure that the wishes of the council is voted, as I said back in June, definitely incorporated in terms of reference, and it will be finally get an outcome.
Yes, but that's the reasoning behind the structure of, I'm not too sure of your point, because you're just stating what we've already worked through and putting in place to achieve that outcome. So I'm not too sure of the point you're trying to make. My apologies for that, but that's what we're trying to do with the structure.
We'll see what the terms of reference contain. We agree on it, and just ensure.
Well, it's not an individual thing, it's for group collective agreement too. Yes, Paul.
On that one, the museum window is just note my disappointment that we now informed it's 50 grand being allowed by LTP to fix these things. What isn't that rotten windows weren't factored in when we took $4 million into that building. And then we find, having done that, we find that the roof is rotten as well. And then we find that the parapets are unsafe. It should have been, I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, 2020 vision, but there should have been a full analysis of that building, and the rotten windows would have been pretty obvious.
Yep.
Before it's out.
My comments noted, and I think you'll find that that's Right, the sentiment around the table in agreement with that as well. Right, anything further for the action list? No? Right. So can I have a move to second, please, and resolve that the updated action list from the Chief Executive be received? Councillor Beard, thank you very much. Councillor Casson, thank you very much. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Right, the presentation, as the Chief Executive has already said, has been withdrawn, so we move on to the Hokitika Museum and ask Lorraine, Museum Director, to speak to this item, please.
Good afternoon, your Mayor, Councillors.
Lorraine, just while you're setting this up, I know it's always tricky with the laptop. One thing I did want to hand out, if that's right today, or two things really, is a handout from an update. I did promise people that we would do reporting on the eyesight, and I'm providing you with a dashboard that we will update in a monthly or quarterly fashion, but I thought you might be interested just to see what that looks like. And the other thing is to say, just thank you to the Mayor. We've reconfigured, as you can see, the format of the room today. So hopefully that sends a nice message around inclusion rather than the presentation stand up front. But I'll be keen to get any feedback from comments. Yes.
That's right.
Thanks.
Sorry, not to distract from the next presentation. I'm more than happy to have commentary with folk around this sort of as we go forward. It's fine.
Right, Lorraine, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and share an update on the Hokitika project, what we've been doing, what we've done now, and what's ahead. We've been making steady progress towards our grand opening, and I'm pleased to report that we're on track and staying in the budget. This summer has been an incredible first season for the museum with the opening of 2 galleries. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. It's been especially heartening to see how pleased our local community is, not only to have the museum open again, but to see it transformed into a fresh modern space that still honours its heritage character. The soft opening in December was a great success and gave the museum a strong positive start as it returned to public life ahead of the full launch. A highlight from the door dressing of the Proponum touring exhibition on December 4th, led by Ngāti Waiwai and Ngāti Maha Tutumakapio. It was a deeply significant moment, ensuring the reopening was grounded in a tikanga Māori and setting the tone for the museum's future with respect, knowledge and cultural learning. To date, we've actually had 12,180 visitors and counting with a month still to go, and reaching the 10,000 visitor milestone is a huge achievement for us, and the overall response has been even better than expected. To date, we've made some great progress since reopening, not just with visitor numbers, but through the connections and building across the community. Key achievements so far include developing educational programs in collaboration with local schools, partnering with cultural agencies to activate our space, and enhancing the visitor experience through special events and engagement opportunities. Some of those highlights have been hosting a Pounamu sector workshop where we connected with local Pounamu artists and businesses, welcoming visitors from the OAT bus tours for guided experiences, partnering with Heritage New Zealand to support the West Coast Photograph Competition. And on the education front, we've had over 200 students who've now completed the Pounamu education program. Participants have included students from Hokitika Primary, Māori Kaupapa Club, the entire Kaniega School, Westland High School, as well as Westport Raymond High School. A highlight has been the collaboration between primary students from Kaniega and Hokitika, who will create their own heitaki from polymer clay and soap, and their works will be curated into a special student-led exhibition at the museum during the April school holidays. The timeline sets out the key milestones as we head towards our Matariki grand opening on the 27th of June 2025. March is all about design with exhibition furniture and display cases completed, set fabrication. In April with farewell Kura Pounamu and work begins on building the permanent exhibition. And in May brings everything together, installation of panels, images and film begins. And by June we'll be ready the exhibition complete and the museum prepared to welcome the community for the grand opening. Here's a look at some of the latest renders showing how the gallery spaces are coming together. These visuals give us a sense of how the exhibition elements, display cases and interpretive films sit within the space. They also help guide the build and ensure that elements from lighting to file replacement come together just right. I'm pleased to report that the project budget has been well managed. We're staying on track financially and are progressing within the planned timeframe to ensure we're ready for the grand opening in June 2025. As part of the Ngā Whakatūranga redevelopment project, we've taken the opportunity to refresh the museum's visual identity. To guide this process, we invited 3 designers to respond to a creative brief grounded in our mission, Te Whakahauma o Te Tangata, enriching today and tomorrow's people, and inspired by the essence of the West Coast. The goal, a contemporary, forward-looking design that complements our revitalised building and our distinctive natural environment and resources. Which brings us to the proposed new look and feel, and it reflects a fresh step forward that positions the museum as a contemporary space. The initial copy and visual concepts were shared with a small discrete group of users to gather feedback and gauge how well the proposed direction resonated with our key audiences. After thoughtful review, these 3 designs could be used across a variety of applications. They are shown in a range of colour-packed palettes that reflect the character and landscape of our region. And here's an example on our existing external slides. So subject to your views and feedback, unless there are strong objections or feedback, I propose to make a final decision over the next few weeks. I'm happy to talk through the concept and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lorraine, for that. Right, questions, please.
As the chief critic of the previous museum's project and the budget, I am really thrilled that the project, Reshape project is coming together and staying with the budget. I'm more than thrilled with the numbers that have come through Kura Pounamu. I think it's amazing and it's a credit because, as we said earlier, Kura Pounamu is an international exhibition. This is not 2 big exhibitions thrown together, and those numbers reflect that. Regardless of what was in the local rag about how the those numbers, if we had put a charge on would have paid for it twice over, this is the point. Besides which, you wouldn't have got those numbers through if you hadn't put charge on. You got those numbers because it's free. But it misses the point that good opponent is more than it. This wasn't an opportunity to make it some dough. This is an opportunity to showcase an amazing exhibition of Taonga Tutu Hotengata, and that you've not going to see this opportunity. So there's that. Then there is the, and I'm going to comment on the criticism that is floating around on social media and the like of the museum project, and our stories aren't being told in there. It's unfair and it's just stupid. How do they know? They don't. And they should just tie hold the mouth and wait and see just what is delivered in June, and they will be surprised and they'll be eating their words. And there's a lot of thought that has gone into these exhibitions on a much constrained budget, and that criticism I think is just unwarranted and mischievous, really, because it's just stirring people up unnecessarily. Just hold your britches and wait, and you'll see what is delivered, and then you can criticise.
Councillor Kingston.
2 points from me, Lorraine. I'm really excited for you to come back next time and tell us we've got 15,000. I'm not sure what's going to happen. The first 2 years after school holidays coming up, so we're really waiting for numbers through, and also with obviously doing free and the likes, but yeah, it's incredible turnaround for this place. It hasn't been utilised for so long. The other point, congratulations on achieving relationships with robust tourism players. You know, there's businesses that try for years in advance to try and secure those players, and you guys have done it in a short turnaround to get them coming in. So it's a really meaningful step forward, which a lot of people won't understand, but it takes 18 months or 24 months to start a conversation before you start seeing them come through business. So congratulations on something that they're managing to expedite that process. I'm sure there's people that really want to learn the secrets.
Thank you. Glad all the buses with brochures.
Yeah, congratulations. Well done. See, well, I thought this was just going to be a never-ending mission for you, but you've achieved it. So really, thank you for getting there. In terms of the look and the sign and whatever, are you leaning towards one in particular?
The always black and white presents the strongest, but there's also a good opportunity to use the coloured versions through social media or in other areas like the website.
Using both of them?
Using green across all
well done.
different applications.
Very cool.
Yeah.
No, well done. Well done.
It resonates so well, doesn't it? It's just, it's quite striking, quite stunning. Yeah. Councillor Neal.
Yeah, agree with all the other comments. Suggest maybe, Paul, you might like to write a letter to the editor. Look, some of those.
I think it's part of the problem.
Well done.
But yeah, no, well done. I can't get over how many people have stopped and talked to people on the street, and I was saying, I'm going to check out the exhibition down there. I would really be there, you know, like say, yeah, well done, yeah, so well done, it was great. Just seeing people commenting on the signs. My only concern would be the dark green against the black. The green can fade away while the yellow and blue you still see, especially if your eyesight's a bit. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, look forward. Thank you. To the next part, well done.
Oh, when is the exhibition going in? The exhibition is going to Exhibition, and then it's been redesigned for France.
Wow. Wow. Cool. Very lucky.
Yeah.
Any further comments on Lorraine's report? Do you want a consensus around the table on those?
Or it can come later.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Paul.
There's just one further thing that I can't resist saying, but further to that unwarranted criticism is the dig about the opening being timed for Matariki. And I just find that there's a dig that
Social media.
there is a dig that it's the timing of the opening for Matariki is inappropriate and etc. I just find that really offensive and just makes me want to double down on it.
I've noticed something here, and there's clearly Councillor Neil.
There was an email this morning.
Oh, okay, right, okay. So it's to do with an email that was received this morning?
Well, indeed.
Right. Sending me emails in the morning about council meetings is...
Paul's not criticising you, Jane.
Oh,
No.
So you're happy for it to come at the time of Matariki?
Oh, you need.
Yeah, great, someone.
Yes, I was the same as Councillor Neil. I couldn't pick up whether you were saying that was good or not, because we haven't seen the email that you're referring to. Yes.
It's the silly criticism.
Yes, okay, and we can pick the next one from, so that's good, thank you for that.
It's actually quite good that this is the silly stuff I'm looking at now.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true.
You know?
That's true.
This is all I got to whinge about. Go for it.
Right, so can I have a move and a second to please resolve that the presentation be received, please? Councillor Glett, second to Councillor Casson, thank you very much, all in favour?
Yeah, thank you.
We'll do the CCO and then we'll move down to Marcus, the formation of the Museum Trust. Right, next on the agenda is the CCO 6-monthly update, and many of you won't have yet met Stephen Reidler. He's the chair of the CCO committee. Stephen, welcome to the table. Yes, he got fogged in this morning at Christchurch, plane couldn't get to Christchurch, so he's had to Zoom. We've already had a meeting with Stephen this morning with the CCO Oversight Committee. So Stephen's going to update everybody on that, and then Stephen, after that, we'll move straight into the other item that's there, which is the letter of expectation. So once you've finished, yeah, okay. So the floor is yours, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and hello, councillors. As the Mayor has indicated, I was planning to be with you today, but Christchurch Airport was the weak link, and we're making do from here. So this morning we had presentations from the chairs of the two CCOs, Westroads and Destination Western. They presented on the 6-monthly financial performance through to December the 31st, 2024. And they also presented their statements of intent for what will apply for FY26 and beyond. So firstly, with the financial reports, I will assume that those reports have been circulated and are available to you and have been read. The issues to bring to your attention are with Westroads. That company has performed extremely well against its budget. It's for the half year has made a profit of 585,000 versus the budget of 222, so it's up 260%. And that has been done in what I know extremely well is a very challenging sector in construction and in infrastructure. I thought the chair, Mark Rogers, spoke very well to his report and conveyed a sense of confidence that he is on top of the business. I also noted that debt is down over the 6-month period from the prior period of 2.92 million down to 2.46 million. And whilst that is a very successful first half result, I think there are indications that they may be under, it may not be so easy for the second half of the year to repeat that performance, but nevertheless, I am very comfortable with what's been achieved. They have also indicated a willingness to meet with me to break down, not in a public forum setting, but to look at the difference in earnings across the 3 divisions of the business, being the Greymouth business, the Hokitika business, and then the Christchurch business. Their overall net margins are, it'll be interesting to see just where they fall across those three businesses. I think I calculated it as somewhere between 2.4 and 2.6%, which isn't too bad at all in this current environment in that sector. With Destination Westlands, we had the chair, Chris Gowley speaking. Unfortunately, his chief executive was not present for reasons that he wasn't able to elaborate on and fully, but there was an emergency that she was distracted to apparently. That business has made a very small marginal profit. It was noted that there were some functions transferred out of Destination Westland into the council over the 6 months, being the pool and the eyesight. There are some questions raised around the presence of a deferred tax liability of 2.5 million on the balance sheet, which needs to be queried as to how that has arisen. Questions were raised around assets under construction, which further information was sought. And I have discussed with the chair, and he is in agreement that we will move to separate out the aeronautical assets in Destination Westland and report against the earnings of those aeronautical assets separately. I am aware that the aeronautical charges at Hokitika Airport have not been reviewed for a long time, and also that when benchmarking is done, those fees on a per passenger basis rate, I am told by the chair, is the third lowest in New Zealand. So with the spectre of a large capital project taking place over the next reporting periods, being the 14 million that has been funded for the airport, there is an opportunity for this CCO to renegotiate the fees with Air New Zealand. And Air New Zealand will not be surprised that this is going to happen. They will not it will take some work to push this through with Air New Zealand, but there is an opportunity to improve the situation there, and that is accepted by the chair. We are also cognizant that the chair has resigned because he has been appointed as the chief executive of the company that he's currently working with. He will stay with us until the end of this financial period, June 30, but that does mean that we have a process to initiate that I will work with your chief executive, Barbara, to look at how we and just what opportunities there are for us in rebuilding these boards. I'll stop there on the financial reports and ask if there are any questions from councillors.
Yes. Yeah, just on that rate or the increase with Air New Zealand, that conversation. My understanding was we get a better rate than most. We're not based on a per seat rate to the airport, whereas most other airports are. So we get we're significantly better off than others because we're not based on a per seat. A bum on a seat is the way most others get paid. We're not like that.
Look, there is actually, there's a little bit more to it than that. Yes, a lot of airports do it on a per passenger basis, and the airlines like that because when their utilisation or passenger loadings fall down, the airport is taking less money, but when the passenger loadings go up, the airport takes more. The case will be, though, when you look at the average loadings on the aircraft that are operating into Hokitika, the fee is based on the aircraft type and the weight of the aircraft rather than the passengers, which is the point you're making. But when you take the average loadings for those aircraft and look at the fees being charged, the average loadings being the number of passengers on board, and when you amortize it across the number of people on board, it is a low fee.
Thank you. We'll be interested to see once that resurfacing's done and we get bigger planes and how that affects it.
Yes, indeed.
You'll have the numbers, I don't, I just understood it as that was the way it was. So, you know,
Yes. Look, most airports historically worked in the way exactly as you've described. But over time, in order to increase rates, there's been a little bit of give and take, and a lot of airports now charge purely on a per head basis, which is the point you're making. And that has been part of the negotiation with the airlines, so that if their business falls down and reduces in volume, they are paying less to the airport. And that is a plus for them.
Paul?
Through the chair, I really hope that the longer airstrip and the move to larger planes really does help this issue with all too frequent cancellation of flights. But it's a combination of the cancellation of flights plus the outrageous pricing on this group to go Christchurch. We know that the hospital, for instance, shied away from there because of unreliability and moving the medical staff back once they drive. We also know that there is another big user of the service is opting more towards driving because of unreliability and because of the price of those tickets. I just hope that we don't get priced out of existence.
I just want to make one point clear regarding the application that we've been successful with the airport. It's not an extension as such which is going to enable bigger planes. The airport currently is at 1,116 metres, which is not sufficient for true safe takeoff and landing with the ATRs in particular, especially if they're fully loaded. You actually require a 1,360 metre runway. So the pilots that fly in and out of here, whether on a Q300 or an ATR 72, they go and have additional training to manage that shorter runway capacity. So in essence, the two extensions that will be happening are going to give a safer passage and turnaround landing takeoff points, as opposed to being extensions that will allow for planes bigger than the ATRs to come in. Discussions with Air New Zealand, as they bring in their hybrid electric planes, they will be able to work off that size runway as well. The other thing is with the Air Force, it gives us resilience that their planes will be able to land and take off again, in particular land fully loaded and take off again with that 1,360 metre. The ATRs at the moment can only run at 62% loaded capacity because of the length of the runway, so it will mean that they can fly fully loaded. The other thing that we're upgrading is the lighting, because at the moment that's done manually, so with having it automated, it means then the ATRs, they can switch to those in the rough weather, because they have got the far more later technology for landing using the lighting, but also that lighting will give the air ambulance plane safe harbourage as well, because of course there's times when they can't fly into Greymouth at night time either. So it's not about bringing Boeings in. It's about improving the safety and performance of what we've got and the resealing also.
I really hope that that it does overcome the excuses that we continually have about the flights cancelled because of mechanical issues and the like.
The letters of support from the industry users, and we're talking the significant ones, we're very on board and supportive of our application because they see that if we can strengthen up the reliability of the planes, they will go back to using them.
Well, I hope so. And I just wonder as to the airlines, how much of that was really the issue with the frequent cancellation. I mean, not keeping into the airport.
No.
But they make it sound like they are.
Right, so is there any, Councillor Gillett?
Yeah, through the chair, Stephen, it's Stephen Gillett here. I connected this morning to the stream, albeit, yeah, there's a problem with the audio for a period of time. I think I was one of two people. There was just a couple of points that came up during the discussion, which I'd just like to follow up. The chair of Destination Westland was quite glowing on the performance of Destination Westland. I don't quite see it that way. He alluded, I know that DW has some challenges because we've put some restrictions with our review on the revenue sources for them, but certain expenditure can be controlled. And there was a note from the chair about the 120k blowout in expenses. So that really resulted in the company only making a net profit of about $2,000. But I'm quite concerned about in that 120k, really there's 150k, nearly 150k in not total expenses, but operating expenses, I think it is. Yeah, and operating expenses increased by nearly 150k. Now, I think he alludes to timing. I think timing with income and expenses has been a regular theme in reporting from DW, but eventually timing must catch up. So I'd be curious to know, because it does affect the bottom line quite significantly, 150k in expenses, when the company, if you take that into account, a net return which is pretty much flat. I'm not sure whether you would be able to put some light on that at some stage.
I certainly intend to. Thank you for the question. When I explored this previously and prior to this morning's meeting, I was informed that costs around the Wild Foods Festival had been reported in the first 6 months, but the income from that will fall into the second 6 months. It is very unusual not to match costs with earnings in accounting. And so I don't really understand why they would have separated the costs for an event into a different reporting period to the earnings that that event will generate. And that is an issue that I need to explore further with the chair.
Okay.
I think that will have a material bearing on the point that you have raised.
Yeah. Okay. The other point I picked up in the discussion was the airport upgrade, the runway upgrade. And I think you made a comment about the ability of DW to manage this project. What is your gut feeling about their capability in managing this? Who's actually going to run the project?
I can speak to that. They have no capability to manage this project.
If I can just interrupt there, Stephen, they aren't managing the project, and they haven't been charged with that, and you've been advised of that, Councillor. Sorry, Stephen.
I would expect the Chief Executive to, as a stakeholder, to sit in on the project steering committee, but they do not have the resources or capability to manage a project like that.
And that is exactly the structure of the committee involved with overseeing the project. So I'm sorry, Stephen, that you were asked that. Yes, because that's, yeah.
Mayor, through you, Mayor, I would really appreciate seeing a definition of the scope of works that have been funded. I haven't received anything like that yet. And there was a councillor speaking about the low reliability of the airport in terms of closures and so on. And I really would like to understand the scope of work that's proposed and how that will benefit the issue that was raised.
Yep, that's not a problem. We can, we'll get that information through to you.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Just through the chair, for the risk of appearing an absolute idiot, but can you point to full briefing about the airport? I did discuss this, I don't know, 3 weeks ago in a workshop. And I got emailed a link to a verbal briefing by our previous CEO back in May about a supposed $20 million upgrade and an attempt to seek funds. That's quite different from a full briefing. What's proposed now?
I'm not too sure quite where you're trying to take this to, and I hope it's not a campaign type thread. That the airport project application that was done, as was advised at the time, was to request the DIA confidential information that we only had confirmed last week. And at this stage, we are getting all the documentation prepared, filled in and completed to go back to the two funders, which is the government and Development West Coast. So as far as what the project allows us to do, that has been broadcasted. And as far as the management of the project, we've been managing it to the direction we have been given. Now, we are purely the facilitator. I've been the facilitator through this. Development West Coast and Destination Western are not the project managers. There is a committee, which is what we were required to put together from the government to do this in the first instance. So as far as the project manager goes, we don't have the skill base in council either that have had the affiliation with airport work. So that has been contracted to an outside external person that has done that same work with the Chatham Islands Airport, and he will be overseeing this work. So we are governed by the direction of government, who are the funders, primary funders of this, and also Development West Coast. We have no skin in the game financially, and so we have no skin in the game as far as forcing direction of conversations, information sharing, or anything else. We have to get this across the line, follow the rules, as you're well aware.
Yeah, I appreciate the contributions from the government and Development West Coast. It's going to be great. What I'm here to do the checks and balances. I'm not campaigning. Is the airport owned by the council? Yes or no? Is it a strategic asset? Yes or no? If it's a strategic asset, should it be consulted in the LTP that we are doing this work? Yes or no? That's what I want to know. If there's cost overruns, I mean, most infrastructure projects don't run to budget. Where will the extra money come from? And these are things that I asked, and there's been no briefing. Does anyone know about this involvement with the project manager for Chatham Islands Airport? No one here.
As I've just explained to you, Councillor, a lot of the structure, we only got this confirmed last week, as you're aware, and a lot of the structure we have had to supply in confidence to the government to get this across the line. I'm not sure what part of that you do not understand, but we are not prepared to compromise what we've actually just achieved by putting information out that we have not been sanctioned to put out. We went through this with the race course as well. This has got nothing to do with the CCO monthly update that we've got. You're on a different agenda item.
I just think it would be courtesy to actually brief the council.
Well, shall we put it on the agenda item for next month and we'll get to the update? Thank you. It's an agenda item of its own if you wanted to go there with that detailed information. It does not have any impact or relativity to the 6-monthly update of the CCO.
All I wanted was a brief.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. You said that. And if everybody's happy, we'll bring that to the council table next month. Right, thank you. Right, sorry, Stephen, for that. Back to you.
That's all right. If there are no further questions, perhaps I should move on to the letter of expectations.
That'll be fine. Well, firstly, we will just move and second and resolve that your presentation be received. Do I have a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Burden, Councillor Monera, thank you very much. All in favour? Bed, what did I say? Sorry. Right, against? Right. Carried, thank you. Stephen, yes, the floor is yours for the next point, next report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is the letter of expectations, which the council is required to send to the council-controlled organisations. The normal sequence of events is that the letter of expectations is sent well before the date by which the CCOs must supply a statement of intent. This has not been possible this year. The CCOs have forwarded to us their statements of intent by the due date, which was the 1st of March. And we are now in the position of seeking your approval to send the letter of expectations. So we've got things around back to front, you might think. I have discussed this with the chairs of the two CCOs. They understand why the council is late with its letter of expectations, and they are happy to consult with us over the remaining available time, which is right through to June the 30th, for them to send their final statements of intent that reflect the content of the council's letter of expectation. So what you have in your papers today is a draft letter of expectation for both Destination Westland and West Road. I'm quite sure that you've got them and they have been read. I would just say that they have a very strong commercial orientation around them, with a focus on return on assets or return on equity, and there is an element of growth in them. One, given the conversation that just preceded this discussion, the issue around how the airport project is managed will require consideration. I feel the airport, I've been involved with many airport projects in Australia and in Auckland and in Christchurch. It is important that the owner of the airport is a voice on the project management structure. But equally, it's important that we have the right skills to manage this project. And as the Mayor has indicated, the project manager will be an outside party. But what we need to turn our minds to is the structure of the project steering group and who sits on that. And I'm too new to the process to have a final view on that, but deciding on the stakeholders who sit on a project steering group is absolutely fundamental to getting a good project outcome. So the wording for the letter of expectations for Destination Westland, it embraces this issue around the project. The governance of the Hokitika Airport Works is to be maintained to the highest standards of probity with procedures for risk management well documented. I think that the Hokitika Airport or Destinations Westlands do have a role in that. But as the Mayor has indicated, the funding is coming from other parties, and we will have to be cognizant of what they require with probity and with risk management. So it's going to be an interesting exercise to put this together. And it's not one that I am unfamiliar with at all. Currently, I am working at Te Papa with a government-funded exercise of 130 million or so, and the same issues arise about the project steering group. With that introduction, I just wonder if there's anything else I should highlight for you. In the Destination Westlands, under financial, we have said the current value of aeronautical assets is to be reported along with the earnings from these assets, clear plans for profit growth, including revisions for aeronautical charges as appropriate. The return on equity must be greater than the weighted average cost of capital. And the comment from one of the councillors earlier is that so far Destination Westland has in all respects underperformed in a profit sense. Are there any questions? I should stop there.
Just if any of you are unsure on this, is that the letter of expectation went into everybody by to teams. So everybody has got it in their letter of expectations. So
Mayor, what I would really like is to get approval to issue these letters of expectations tomorrow, because the two CCOs are anxious to receive this guidance from the council so that they can start their processes around how they best respond to this.
So we can't do that one, yes, sir.
Through the chair, sorry, Steve. My understanding was that the intention was that these folk would have an opportunity to see the letter of expectation. We only sent it out today with the teams.
Oh, okay.
I think if they wanted to make comment, I think was your point that you wanted to get it for endorsement, or if anyone wanted to make comment before they were endorsed, I think you were trying to seek that. So I wonder if we could give a day or two perhaps and we gather the information or something like that, Steve, unless folk here are content with the content of the letters. I don't want to preempt you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but 11:20 we got them.
Sorry, I wasn't aware that the letters had not been pre-circulated.
Yeah. Through the chair, Stephen, if you're fine with the approach, I will collate the information from folk around this table and have a chance to meet with you. We'll have a talk about it before the end of the week and see what we can do.
Yes, okay.
Would that be appropriate? Sorry.
I think that there needs to be a firm executive action on this. We are well and truly late with the issue of these letters. I'm disappointed that the letters weren't pre-circulated, but these things happen. I'm hoping that we can avoid a drawn-out process to get the letter of expectations completed.
From my initial scan, they're a big step forward from where we have been, and I'd like to look at them again, but I'm happy in principle. Give us a good day or two to review them and come back with points collated and go from there.
We can still receive them, subject to feedback.
Feedback's not always the same as discussion. The ability to discuss it amongst around the whole tables more productive than just feedback. Are we able to do it
Well, the alternative could be that early next week we set up a Zoom call with Stephen and invite folk who do want to have a conversation, or invite everybody, but who wants to have a conversation about it. We could make that discussion if that would make it easier for folk. It's just that I'm well aware of the fact that Monday we have consultation for, hopefully for LTP, so some of us will be on the road. And I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to talk to Stephen about what his availability is.
Don't wait for me, I'm good.
Whatever the content.
this week?
Pretty basic.
Yeah, they are pretty basic. What's that, Jane?
I think ideally this week.
This week.
We'll take a
We've only got tomorrow.
10-minute break, just a chance to read it. Come back
And maybe, do you need to have a conversation with, I don't know. If you need to have a conversation with Stephen, I know. Stephen, what time is your next flight?
I'm booked on 3:30.
Do you want, I don't know how to do it, probably.
Could do.
That might resolve it.
Yes.
We do it today.
We can do it today, then it's resolved, which means we'll push it back. They are very straightforward, they're not technical. Yeah, just a matter of reading it. So is everybody happy? Yeah, is everybody quite happy with that?
Are you suggesting we break now to do it?
Yes, yes, and that's to read this, and I will be keeping it very much to the line of 10 minutes and no more. Come back and if there's a discussion needed, but it's just, I mean, they are very straightforward points with the letter of expectation. So it shouldn't take, are you all right with that, Stephen?
Yes. So what are you planning to do, Mayor? I'm sorry.
We're going to break for 10 minutes, just so everybody can have a read of the letter of expectation. And then back while we've got you on the screen, raise any concerns, have any questions, and then we will sign them off.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Right. So sorry for the next lot of presentations. We're going to go back because we're running to time. We'll put that back. Actually, we're not too bad for time. So we'll allow that 10 minutes and have a quick read.
The 20 past you come back for the conversation.
Yes.
So start and go do something.
Quarter past is 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Yep. So has everybody got them on their screens in front of them?
Yeah, I've got no comment.
Yes. Everybody's had a chance to read. Turn off again shortly. Right, have we got Stephen back? Okay.
Yes.
Right, thanks, Stephen. Right, so we've had the 10 minutes to read. Has everybody read? Understand? Are there any questions? Any points of clarification, please? Straightforward, I'm hearing some comments. Right, all right, Stephen, so everybody's quite happy with that, so we'll progress on with letters of expectation and closing off that report then, please.
So my video's been turned off by not that anyone really wants to see me, I imagine, but
It's all right, you're going to pop up in a minute.
okay. So the letters have been circulated. I think it's very difficult for councillors to take the content in it very quickly, but I think, as the Mayor said, there's nothing too controversial in what we've got in there, but it is a letter from the Mayor, which I'm hoping that if there are changes, it can be done easily after the meeting, perhaps, rather than hold the meeting up on it.
No, there's no changes have come forward.
Happy to move points 1 and 2.
Right, and I have a councillor happy to move points 1 and 2. That's the letters of expectation from the Council Controlled Organisation Oversight Committee be received. Point 2 being council approve the letters of expectation to Destination Western Limited and West Roads Limited. So you're quite happy for me to proceed with that, Stephen? And Barb will send them out so everybody's got them physically as well. Everybody's already got them on their computers, but we'll... Oh, to the companies, sorry, to the companies. So we'll make sure everybody's... Oh, you confirmed, yes. So we'll complete that cycle of confirmation with the 2 chairs as well. Right, so do I have a seconder, please, to Councillor Burden? Thank you. We've moved to a seconder and resolved that the letters of expectation from the CC Organised Oversight Committee be received and that the Council approves the letters of expectation for Destination Western Limited and West Roads Limited. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stephen, very much for that.
Well done. Thank you. That's great. At this point, Mayor, with your consent, I will leave the meeting.
No, happy with that, and thank you for your time today, Stephen. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next time I'll drive over too, by the way.
No, you need to support that airport.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Right, so then we will now divert back to the formation of the staff reports, the formation of the Hokitika Museum Trust Board. Please, Marcus, if you would come and speak to that, please.
Your Worship, Councillors, the report on the formation of the Hokitika Museum Trust Board. So in May 2022, Council resolved to establish a Museum Trust Board. However, there were no terms of reference or trust deed associated with the formation of that trust. And as you'll be well aware, the matter hasn't advanced since then. So the report recommends that Council form a working group to consider the purpose of the trust and to draft a terms of reference or trust deed to be brought back to the full Council in June for discussion and consideration ahead of the formation of a trust board. I would just bring to your attention, of course, that one of the, it's not mentioned as an option, but there is always the option to defer any decision around this until later in the year after the elections, if you wanted to. So I'll take it as read and very happy to answer any questions.
Stephen, I have not a question, more a concern. To form a trust. Sorry, Mark, what did I say? Stephen, sorry, sorry about that. To form a trust, we need to understand the current management structure of the museum, the proposed future plans, and where we see the future or the future projection of the museum. We can't put any of this information together, and even the formation of the trust and what that looks like without ourselves understanding the overall structure of the museum. And as far as even financially, we don't even know what the operational costs are of the museum. So in essence, to put a trust together now with the limited information we have, we're basically handing them a dead duck. I mean, we need to have that information ourselves to understand what it is we're actually looking at transferring into a trust. And we do not have that information. I would like to see a full financial set records come back to us, including the operational costs, including staffing, the management structure, future plans and aspirations of it. We've got nothing to put into a trust without that.
Through your worship, so I advocated for a museum trust years ago because for too long the museum has been political football with different councils come, councils go, mayors change, priorities change, and the museum was the victim of that too many times. And so the idea was that a museum trust board, which happens in other regional museums, sits above it, and it gives a degree of separation between the council and the museum, and it can help and it can advocate for the museum. Then when the first report came back as a result of that, and a previous manager flipped it around and put the focus, which is reported here in point 2.5 of the report, which says that the report proposed the primary function for the establishment of this trust board was to enable to raise funds. That wasn't the idea at all. That was a sideshow, because there was funding available that this museum currently it's not eligible to apply for because it's local government. And so the trust board would be able to do that. But that wasn't the main function of it. It was to give that degree of separation. And so I think it's, to me, it's fairly straightforward. And the same with the museums in other regions that Marcus has been looking at, I imagine would be on, like in small regions, would be in a similar vein. So they're there for an advocacy role, primarily. That's my view. And I think it's really necessary because who knows what's going to happen with the next council. We've had this, the museum, for instance, one councillor got so right-wing they decided that museums had nothing to do with councils, and so therefore they put it out as run it as a business. And the council just provided some money, and they had to, an envelope of money, and they had to try to run this thing on this hill and rag. As a business, it just didn't work. It was a disaster, but such is the fickleness of the way that councils have treated the museum. So hence the need for some independence. Not to say that the council loses control, the council always will have oversight of the museum, but the trust board would give that, it would be representative of the community and would be able to advocate on behalf of. So that's the first point I would make. The next one was the 8.1 in the report, where it recommends option 1, and it suggests a working group by the mayor, 4 mayoral delegates, 2 volunteer councillors, 2 community stakeholders, and the community services manager to sit down and agree to come up with some agreed purpose for the trust board. What happened to Emmett? We're not there. No.
The nature of iwi and community involvement,
Where are you talking?
in option 1. The trust purpose will suggest the best legal structure, the nature of iwi and community involvement, the scope composition of the trust, etc.
That's not what the recommendation is.
Trust purpose, not the trust maker or the working group maker.
Yeah. So it suggests a working group comprised the mayor, Muriel Delavat, 2 volunteer councillors, 2 community
Oh, I see it there,
stakeholders,
yes, right,
and community
yes,
services
yes.
manager.
Yep,
My
you should
question
be
is,
in
where
there.
are we?
Yeah, they should be in there, sorry, I was get them up.
And further, 8.2.1, the report identifies the financial implications, and it says the establishment costs, advertisement and recruitment, and then the potential for non-revenue. Where did that come from?
No,
Who suggested
I don't think the museum can afford it.
Who suggested the non-revenue? Well, for goodness sake,
Yes.
everything that we're on is core.
Yeah.
And this is the same. I don't know where that ever comes from. There's no cost implications of this
No.
whatsoever. That's me.
Then there can't be, because it just puts more burden on the ratepayers, because at the end of the day, they're subsidising it. No, fair comments, thank you, Paul. Right, further. Councillor Goodhead.
Yeah, through the chair, I just see the report focuses on establishing the trust board. I think what you're saying about the financials is definitely relevant, but it doesn't seek to transfer that into the board straight away. All it is forming the board. So I don't see any necessity to delay that part. I think we can agree that the trust is the right way to go, and we can form it and get the background work done and still look at what is the museum and then define it, and then go the next step and transfer it, make it become part of the trust.
I agree with that. It just depends on what the structure, what the job or the role of the trust will be, because if it's just purely to facilitate funding opportunities, then that's fine. But if it's not, then it's the other information that's needed before we look at what we can put into the trust. Yes, yes, the group needs to look at that, get all that information in. Yes.
And I totally agree, could easily have even EVB education added in there. Absolutely.
So it should be in there, shouldn't be in there.
I think this report gives scope for the trustees to decide what their entity's going to do, what it's going to focus on.
The working group. Working group, working group.
Yeah, so just to be really clear, the proposal is that a group is formed of council representations, iwi, whoever you decide, to consider the purpose of the trust, because the trust's purpose could be that big or it could be that big, just depending on what you wanted to do. The assets, the museum, the operation could be transferred into this potential trust, or it could be just looking at advocacy, fundraising, asset protection or ownership of the collection. So the proposal is that a group is formed to consider the purpose and what you want it to do. Given the importance that this trust can play in the museum's future over the next few years, it's important to get it right from the get-go.
Yes, it is. I hardly agree with that, but I still think that to do that, we need to have that information so we know what the requirements are going to be on the trust.
Yeah, but that can be brought to the working group.
Yes, it needs to be. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Two tweaks to the recommendations then. Additional EV reefs and the working group make up and around the 26th of June. Too tight turnaround to deliver what's been requested. And certainly agree on the scope in terms of reference. Noting what's happening between now and the 30th of June. Anybody can answer that or sorry.
Well, the purpose of the June date was exactly that, to let the museum just get on with what it needs to do and open up on the 27th, and for the working party to independently consider the purpose of the trust over that period of time. But absolutely, if you wanted to give it more time for that consideration, if you thought that was warranted, then
I suspect we've got a fairly busy 3 months between now and long-term plan.
I would suggest that the working group consider the purpose of the Hokitika Museum Trust and understand the composition of the Hokitika Museum and all that that covers.
Yeah.
And then once that comprehension is done, we then look at in terms of reference to what would potentially be the role of the trust, and bring that back to council.
Yes.
But we can't put a document together on a terms of reference when we actually don't understand the business for starters. Because we need to make sure that the trust is actually going to be tasked with what is the right thing for the museum going forward, whether it be fundraising, protecting it, advocating for it, or whatever. We need to look at the business and understand that and see what the museum needs.
Yeah. And I suppose that was the suggestion of having the community services manager involved, so they can bring that information to that working group.
I would have thought that the museum manager would have had that information anyway. Well, who's managing the budgets for the museum?
Well, I am ultimately, but yes.
Right, okay.
Two people.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so Councillor Kesson, you want to,
All the need to move, speak, we need to change the makeup of the working group to include 2 new groups as well, or some form of moving around that, and then point 3 might be, do you think it's realistic to put pen to paper today to say it's going to be happening in 3 months' time with the runway of...
so we'll take that out for a later date.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice to have this training, and Paul raises a good point,
Yes.
that having been a clinical football, and we don't want to just push down the road again.
So get brought back.
But 3 months is,
Change the
last
line.
3 months is
Okay.
really busy.
Tranches and next financial, so essentially
Yes.
you would start
Yeah.
making it come back, so you've got a set time, not just the vote.
Yep, July. And it gives time to do that and bring it back if there's any other need for any discussion. All right, so Councillor Casson has motion forward that the report be received. You're supporting the working group to consider the purpose of the Hokitika Museum Trust Board.
And then probably just noting inclusion of the 2 groups on there.
Well, any representation.
Group and then any representation. Okay, so that's fine, thank you.
Point 3 to read whatever the date for the July meeting is.
So we'll take out a draft terms of reference for the trust and make that point 3. Draft terms of reference. Back to the July 31st meeting. For full council consideration here for formally establishing a trust. Okay, so the resolution is, that the report be received. The mayor forms a working group including any representation to consider the purpose of the Hokitika Museum Trust. And point 3, the draft terms of reference or trust deed are brought back to the July 31st, 2025 council meeting for full council consideration ahead of formally establishing a trust. Everybody quite happy with that? Right, so I have a movement of which was Councillor Casson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Neal, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you everybody for that. So yeah, Marcus, if you want the clarification, I'll have that with the minutes. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Lorraine, for that as well. So, gosh, that's not bad for time, Lily. We're 6 minutes behind schedule. Lily, the financial performance February 2025, please.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Councillors. Through Your Worship, I present the financial report as at the 28th of February. I'll take it as read. There are a couple of points I'd like to make initially. Firstly, the essential services. As noted before, it is unlikely that that will be met by the end of the year, mainly for reasons beyond our control. So we had originally an essential services budget of 17.7 million. That's reduced to about 8.7 million now. Two reasons. The NZTA final budget was 3.7 million. Our budget for transport is 9.2. The other one is the wastewater treatment plant, which, as you know, is a deferred project. The original budget was 3.7 million here. The flip side of that, of course, is that our projected loan funding, as per the annual plan, will also be down at the end of this year at least. The other one I want to draw your attention to is debtors. You will note we have added some information that you requested last month. I just want to reinforce that we do follow standard business practice in collecting debts. We go through the normal process and we have a reputable debt collector. Looking at some of those, the graph for building consents is a little bit of a misnomer. That's of those 34 outstanding ones, 21 of them are actually notices to fix. So you can understand they're a little bit harder to get the funding in for those ones. With the grants debtors, the only outstanding amount at the moment is now welcoming community, 57,500. I think that is all I have to note at the moment, so through your worship, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Lindley. Questions, please. Councillor Casson.
The last point you raised around the welcoming communities, that's outstanding, but we're expecting to see it shortly.
Yeah, that was the 28th of February invoice, so it's not overdue.
Thank you. Bottom of page 31.9, other expenses. The 141,000 development costs for the base course are not budgeted for. Are they being budgeted for next year, or have we not?
So with the demolition of the race course, we initially got some funding from the race course, which is in trust. So that funding will be covering those costs. That was to cover repairs and maintenance and work such as this. So that's where that funding is going.
I understand that, but have we not budgeted the expenditure coming up? Is that budgeted for the next financial year, or are we just not putting it in the budget?
No, we haven't put it in the budget because we were not aware of quite what was going to be done on it.
Thank you. Just a bit of clarification, obviously 10% up on expenditure, double the budgeted deficit. Non-cash swaps of $715,000. If you were to summarise in actual cash terms, what do you think the current situation is? And do you think we're covered from the current position we're in by year's end?
There is no cash for that at all. It's just a valuation of the swaps. So what happens is when the swap is finalised, that's when there is a cash transaction. And we will either pay or receive money depending on what the interest rates are at the time.
Yeah, so that's not hitting the bottom line, that was at the top of the sustainability.
It's part of our interest rate forecast, it's factored into that.
Any further questions for Lindley, please? This gentleman normally does have somebody.
Good.
Move on.
Yeah. Probably just a point to note that it's great we're getting that full 400k reimbursed for that. Jackson's and hopefully the remainder of what's happening this week might get scooped up in that as well in another round.
That's right. As long as we have the velocity of rain over the set amount of hours, that makes it that we can claim for it, because that's what it comes down to.
We're pretty good for that round every year.
Yes, there's a formula. Fremantle unfortunately has less volume of rain over a wider period of time, which makes their application for their slip, doesn't meet the criteria. That's on the dice. At least you get that. Right, is there any further questions for Lindley? No. Right, can I have a mover and seconder please resolve that the financial performance report for 28 February 2025 be received? Councillor Gissing, thank you very much. Councillor Beers, all in favour? Carried, thank you. I'm sorry, Paul. Do we normally have questions for the financial report? No? See? Thanks, Lindley. Next, we have Alicia, the adoption of the draft infrastructure strategy and draft of activity management plans. Please, she will speak to us on this. AMPs, yes, they're called AMPs. So when you hear the terminology AMPs, this is what it refers to.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, we'd just like to present a report to adopt the draft infrastructure strategy and activity management plans. It's a lot of paperwork for you guys to read through. As you can appreciate, it took quite a lot of our staff time. You will note that, already that we have 6 activities, but for water we have 3 activity management plans due to the nature of that different activities. And for transport, it's an addendum to the AMP rather than the AMP that you're adopting because of the out of cycle with the NLTP, so the National Land Transport Plan. Through the chair, I'm happy to take any questions.
Question.
Just through the chair, just for point of clarification, can I just, I know I spoke to you both about this, but these were the report back from the auditors, were these AMPs were of an incredibly high quality and they were very reasonable. This is the first time that we've had AMPs here, so actually it's a real pleasure to be able to put them up in the consultation. So sorry, I thought I'd reinforce that because Alicia doesn't like talking about it.
No, and well done, well done. Right, so questions, points of clarification? Everyone happy with that?
I thought we did have the activity management plan, just that they weren't up to the same quality.
Through the chair, legislatively, yes, you have to have them, but this time we've written them in-house, which generally makes them better as we're here on the ground working with the team.
Questions? No? All right, so the resolution is the report be received, that council adopt the draft infrastructure strategy and draft activity management plans, and council direct staff to undertake consultation with the community alongside the 2025-2034 long-term plan. I move and do a seconder, please. Councillor Beard, Councillor Manera, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much for that. Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Alicia. Right, it's the local. Okay. Yes, so the Done Well consultation document was removed. The late agenda item is the establishment of a water services internal business unit. Local Water Done Well resolution rescind. And I'll hand over to Chief Executive to speak to this item, please.
Apologies, folks, and Stephen, I see now why you would have been, when we had that conversation about, I understand now when I read back through it, I've got very used to the document, so I probably did it shorthand. So, as I said, there's a standing order that if we put something through as a resolution and then we wish to change that, we have to come back and rescind it. I cannot rescind that the preferred business unit, single business unit within the agency is our preferred model because it fills the information that's required for the LTP. There's no risk in us identifying that. I know we're going to talk a little bit further about potentially the new information that's come to hand and what that means in terms of models. It does not affect our ability to make a decision at any point on any different type of model, but for the purpose of the LTP and the auditors, we can't renege and go back and say we don't have a preferred option. It has to be that preferred option because all our costings have been done for that. What I am rescinding is the consultation process of the Local Waters Done Well, which is a separate document, completely separate to the LTP, that we are now putting forward for adoption on April the 17th. So Sorry, councillor, if I misunderstood your comments about where that was coming from.
Right, questions, councillor Gregg?
So just clarification, the wording difference I see relates to an expectation that any alternative opportunities will be fully investigated. Right.
Because there's the clarification that the reason why that we're putting it forward for the 7th of April is because the additional information about the regulation and the monitoring has come through, plus some of the model discussion. And to do that is actually, it's leaving us enough flexibility to do that in the document of local waters government.
Yeah, my, just reading what we talked about in February, if the reason we're modifying this is related to the discussion on Tuesday, purely.
No, it's not. And there's a much wider scope.
Because what we decided in February says Westland has autonomy around future changes to the district's water service arrangements, such as forming or joining a CCO.
Agreed, and I would suggest that that's part of the discussion we take forward, but it does not affect where the local waters government consultation process.
But if wordings for other reasons as well.
Yes. Not just the joint meeting here on Tuesday.
Otherwise, I would have been happy to stay with the status quo. I would have said what I'm implying here. So I'm very wary about that proposal. There's a lot more.
Correct, and I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to happen and a lot more validation, and I'm happy to talk to that, but it's not.
So I'm after a move received or resolved that the report be received. So thank you, councillor Beden. Right, so councillor Manera, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried. Thanks, Barb, for that. Right, so moving on, we move on to the adoption of supporting policies and documents to the revenue and financing policy for consultation concurrent with the draft long-term plan 25 to 2034 consultation. Leslie, Group Manager, Corporate Services and Risk Assurance, to speak to this item, please.
Not any warmer over there, Leslie, I'm sure.
No. I'll take the document as read, but I'll just clarify a few things. The funding needs analysis is not attached, as that is actually the fundamental part of the revenue and financing policy. So that is included within that document as part of it. The rating policy, it's not a statutory document, but it's general practice to have one, because if we make any minor changes to our rating systems, such as changing differentials, etc., we've got the policy there to do that, whereas if we didn't, we would have to actually do an LTP amendment because it's fundamental to the actual LTP. The funding impact statement, you will see that calculates the rate impact. So it basically shows for all total activities together how everything is funded. So all your revenues, all your finances are in place, all your capital works funded as well. And these have to be adopted before we actually move on to the other documents.
Questions, please. No questions?
Are we discussing the audit report at this point?
Sorry?
Are we discussing the audit report at this point?
Oh, sorry, no, I meant to mention that. That is going to be the confidential section with By and Young.
Sorry.
I'm not playing that.
As long as you're not inviting Firefly. Right, so with that, thanks, Leslie. The resolution is that the report be received and that council adopts the following documents as supporting policies and principles to the revenue and financing policy and for consultation components of the long-term plan 2025 to 2034. A, draft funding needs analysis. B, draft rating policy. C, draft funding impact statement. And point 3, the council receives the audit report. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Remove that. So we'll take that out. Yes, sorry, you just, yep, that should be removed. So we'll omit that and just go down to points 2 through A, B, C and point 1. Could I have a mover and seconder, please, on that? Councillor Glegg, Councillor Beard, thank you very much. All in favour? Yes. Carried, thank you. Right, Leslie, while you're on the hot seat, we'll let you carry on with the adoption of the revenue and financing policy for consultation concurrent with the draft long-term plan 25 to 34 consultation period.
Again, I think the report is read, but just to clarify, the revenue and financing policy is fundamental to the LTP. It explains how we actually fund all our activities, and that explains both OPEX and CAPEX in separate areas. They're pretty much the same. The way we fund, all external funding comes first. We'll explore that, then we move on to fees and charges and grants. And lastly is rates, which is basically everything that we've not been able to fund elsewhere.
Questions? Clarification? No? All right, then I'll ask for a mover and seconder, please, so we may resolve that the report be received, that council adopts the revenue and financing policy for consultation concurrently with the draft long-term plan for 2025 to 2034 consultation as provided by the Local Government Act section 83A. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Beard, thank you very much. Councillor Casson, all in favour? Yes. Carried, thank you. Thanks, Leslie, very much for that. And now we move on to the adoption of the draft consultation document, the draft long-term plan 2025 to 2034. And Emma, we'll hand over to you, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship and elected members and staff. I would like to present the report on the draft consultation document and the draft long-term plan for adoption. And I will take the report as read. If there are any questions through the chair.
Through the chair, can I just note that those documents were circulated in their final draft form for you today. We've had 2 teams that previously have been circulated for you so that you can refer to them and know that they are the final draft document. It's a little bit confusing. We've had multiple versions in November.
Just wanted with your hand something.
Yes, sir. A few things to comment on. The debt, worship, is becoming a millstone around this council. And in 3 years, I mean, this has been clear from the long-term plan now, in 3 years, we doubled the amount of debt, and that's a worry, and it does breach as noted in the long-term plan, it does breach the threshold, and it's something that it's, as a council, not front of mind, of course, increasing debt, and at times like this, when we're faced with some unavoidable debt, such as the new wastewater treatment plant ×2, that a lot of those other projects should be wiped. But they're still living. And and it's, some of them are couched with, all subject to outside funding, etc. We've been down that track before as well, and they still live. But so, my point is that the debt limit is something that, we're carrying it from decisions that were made by a previous administration, which was pretty much debt heavy. like a previous government, and the, yeah, and so it's going to push us in 2027 over that threshold. The Hokitika wastewater treatment plant cost now is ballooned out to what, according to this, 27.9 million. It's like, you know, Christ. I mean, the first we had was you put the brakes on worship when you saw a figure that came out of the oversight committee, that 20 million, and now we're to 28 million. And it's like, having said that, you know, it's unavoidable, you know, and it's one of those things that we've got to do to bring this town into the 21st century. But crikey, it's a big amount for a small ratepayers. The further to that is even more concerning from my view is the Franz Joseph wastewater replacement, which is not timed until 2031. The consents expire in 2034 for the existing oxidation ponds in the Tripoli. But they're in peril right now, and the Havel Wall, even with the hook that's been put on the back of that, is not going to save those ponds. And I'll say, chalk it up on the wall today, that we'll be back here next year talking about the urgency of how we're going to do this, because those ponds are going to be in such danger. Pushing it out to 2031, I think, is reckless, to be honest, in my view. I know it's easier to do that because it's kind of, well, you know, at the moment they're protected behind a wall of sorts, but the erosion of the Tata River is undoing all of that. I know I'm talking to the converted here, but I just think that 2031 is too far out. We should be planning now. We should be more than planning. We should be having that, you know, and starting the construction seriously on whatever that new treatment plant is going to be. And it's in the long-term plan. It's allowed for is $9 million, which is to me is unrealistic, given that when it was when we had the Cape Decorator and all that period, it was $8 million for a new mechanical wastewater treatment plant. And in all that time, we've only gone up to 9 million. I just think it's light. Given that the new wastewater treatment plant for Franz has to be that can cope with peak season, which is bigger than the population of Hokitika. I know there are lots of nuances within this. I know that, but I just question how realistic is $9 million for Franz for that, and I don't think it's realistic at all to push out. That's my. I've got another one I want to come back to later, but that's enough for now.
In the same conversation, in the same topic?
No.
Different topic?
Different topic altogether.
Okay. Right. Do you want to respond to that at all, Barb? Sorry, talk to you.
No, it's fine. Look, through the chair, it's a really incredibly hard, and thank you for acknowledging that you understand the difficulties of trying to trade off what we're doing, and the trade-off was really clear. How do we actually keep ourselves within as much as we can in an affordable environment? And so part of that was the work that we did around looking really closely at all of the capital and trying to make sure that where we could, we smooth them, but not unrealistically. I take your point, and Earl, I'm sure you have something to say about the technical part of this. I won't venture into that. I'm not well prepared for doing technical wastewater, but it's a difficulty that we face, but none of this was taken lightly. We did discuss it. We went through the capital program. We talked about what we needed to drop, what we could trade off. There is nothing there that's, if you like, frivolous in terms of the capital, but still the challenge, and the challenge for all councils is how are you going to actually do the work that you need to do, that absolutely has to be done, and manage what that does to your rates. And so we are constantly trying to do that. And the reason why, can I just pick up on a point you made about there are things in there that are partly funded or put as they could be funded or they're not. We really toss that around internally before we put it in. We saw the auditor's opinion about what was the most prudent way of doing that. So what you're seeing, I think, is a reflection of the work that's gone on behind the scenes, and when we've brought it here to talk about what direction do we want to go in and what do we trade off. But I'm sorry, Bill, I won't take the space in terms of Fred's.
Your Worship, in terms of the projects that are still in here for debt funding going forward, that are subject to external funding, the funding money days that we saw in the last government are gone.
Absolutely. We're in a hugely constrained environment.
Yeah,
and
it's not realistic.
But the issue that we put in, as we put in commentary, was that if we are unable to receive external funding, we will not progress. We can't afford to do it, but we had to put them into the LTP so that people had an awareness of them. And there is, and that's having the conversation with, and being upfront with the community that we can't afford to do them if we do not get the external funding. And the commentary the commentary is within the LTP to that effect. We were very clear, and we put it through the auditors to make sure. In fact, there was quite a bit of to and fro about that, because even the auditors argued which particular position they felt we should have taken. So none of it, all I can do, which is probably very cold comfort for, is to say it wasn't done lightly, and it was scrutinised as hard as we could, but the balance remained. So, and that's a consultation process.
That's wrong through your Worship, as long as it doesn't create expectation in the community, because it may look as a long-term plan, but these projects are live. And
no, that's something we need to confirm to them when we're out there with the consultation process. We need to make that crystal clear. And it's not the hope that, well, maybe we could bend some money somewhere. Unless we get external funding to pay for it, there will be no pressure on the ratepayer, and there will be no risk. I think that's this council's bottom line, always has been. So it's up to us to convey it. Well, a lot of that's been to what we've inherited too, Paul. So, but this council's pathway is to have no additional cost to the ratepayers or negative impact. So it's up to us to convey that when we're out with the consultation and give them that reassurance. But yeah, appreciate your comments.
Yeah, just quickly from me, I don't disagree with what Paul says, and projects that can't be funded shouldn't be. However, I think the day's going to come pretty soon. Look, there's a couple of things we ain't going to be able to stop. Right, and that's the debt rise, because we're going to have to increase it, don't have a choice. No one's want to do it, but don't have a choice, and rates. We can't stop them running away with freight trains. So what I think, picking up on what you're saying, Paul, is that these projects, as you can see, are just blowing out year after year, because we're not dealing with them. We're going to have to bite the bullet and deal with them, and unfortunately the debt's going to go through the roof. But if we either do it, or we just walk away from it, and we can't walk away from it. So it's D-Day's on our doorstep, guys.
But it's also how we manage them, and just because that's the price we've got there, we need to scrutinise that, we need to push it, pump it, bend it, do everything we can to it, to get it back to a level that is, and that's why also too, Leslie, when I said to her that, last year that we need to revisit how this pans out into the rates for the next 5-10 years. It's no good to say, well, we can borrow 20-odd million to fund this. What does that look like in repayment? We've got to pay it back. If it's not, that's not a doable piece of the puzzle, then you do not do it, because it's not us that's paying back, it's us collectively as ratepayers. So you don't go and buy $1 million home with a $20,000 income, because you can't afford to buy it and pay it back. No different with anything else that we do. So, yeah, it's got to be the angle we look at everything we do.
Yes, yes.
And have that priority on that, what is essential out of this, what isn't.
Yes, and I'm agreeing for that, what Councillor says, but it's at the stage now, it's fast getting to the stage when it reaches that threshold and then it goes beyond it. And that we've just got to be so frugal
Careful.
and very careful.
And through the chair, that's exactly why we put that benchmark in around the debt, so that we flag before we need to. We will be flagging, we're getting to the red zone, and that's the best at this point. That I think, you know, we consciously did that, and it may bite us a bit, that people are going to say, well, actually, look, you've already put the flag and hitting it, but that's what we need to be putting up for you folk to say, we're worried, we're really worried at that red zone.
And I'm not suggesting for a minute that we resolve from our obligations with the wastewater treatment plant, for instance. I mean, $28 million, there's no getting around it. That's, yeah, but the France one is one that I would just urge to have another look at in this consultation period between things. It's only going to make the position worse, but it's going to make it, but pushing it out is going to be just untenable.
It heightens the risk.
Absolutely.
And through the chair, and I guess that also compounds the conversations we had with our colleagues at regional level about how this lines up. You know, we're not the only currently driving this, so it's a bit of more of a discussion.
Yes, unfortunately we've got two that are
Correct.
bearing down on
it.
For the chair, I just make a comment that I think the decision to keep things like 3 water assets at the stage in-house and only fund it through the limits that LGFA sets at 175% is very prudent, doing the best we can. Because the government's preferred option for 3 waters is to set up CCOs with 500% lending limit. And 500% lending limit, a third of the revenue in water revenue is servicing the interest of that. And the government is quite happy. They're saying councils are not borrowing enough money.
We'll be talking about that when we get into that section this afternoon. Yeah.
But I agree, debt is a concern.
Yes. So back to the draft consultation document, the draft long-term plan. Any further questions to Emma regarding that? That's very gracious of you. Quick, I might just get a mover a second to free find them. So with that too, is that the schedule for these community has been included? You've all got that. We still haven't had confirmation from Councillor Neil and Denise as to what you'll be attending. So if we can have that, please, so we know who's attending what, it would be of assistance to us as well with working out travel plans, etc.
And just through the chair, Emma, in terms of the work that we did yesterday, making sure we had the formatting and the frames for the notification once the adoption has gone through, that's when those notices go up about the meetings, etc., don't they? We have to wait for the adoption process. It's not because they're not there. There's a sequence that we have to follow, but we're all ready to push the buttons on that communication.
Absolutely, yes, that's correct. Everything is ready to go, and communities are aware that they're going to be receiving information and copies of the documents.
Right, that's what I was just going to ask you for confirmation. Emma, you're going to be sending something out to every community CDO or community officer So they can
Yes.
disperse. Yes, cool, thank you very much. Paul? Oh, yes, certainly.
Just a quick one from me. We sat here a year ago and discussed the lack of, I guess, pretty pictures or one pages that acknowledge for every dollar of rates we spend where it goes, and that's easy to consume piece for the community. I know we haven't done that again this year. And a clear sort of one pager, as in time, probably not. Yeah, a one pager, me and Walker in the farm, did a really good one. I saw this morning with, you know, the breakdown of cents and a dollar, and CE cents as well. Around where a lot of our colleagues around the country do a great job. If here's one page, every dollar of rates is where, every $100 of rates is where it goes. I mean, we're knocking on the door with adopting in a couple of minutes' time as well as going around the road on Monday. But I mean, that's a really important piece for our community that I don't think we've really nailed.
Through the chair, we have provided, and I know this is different, we have done the FAQs to try and give, you know, answers that are easily digested by people who are not close to the wonderfulness of the LTP. But I take your point about the Victoria stuff, but quite honestly, it's been a moving feast almost up to this point. There's no harm in looking to see what we can do, but I wouldn't like to guarantee we could. That's not something we have in-house. But for the next LTP, I think it's absolutely worth that conversation. If you look at the Canterbury, for instance, their LTP consultation document, they've got a day in the life of rates, which is really interesting and makes it very real to people. So it's not for the want of trying, but it's probably going to be really difficult for us to have that test. I take your point, and I realise you took that one about a year ago, but let's hope that for the next one, in the next 2 years, we will not be talking about it.
Might not be easy to conversation.
Paul, have you rattled your cage?
Yes, if I may. It's always interesting, Your Worship, the issues that are teased out in the consultation document, what questions we highlight. And I just wonder why, I mean, I wasn't at the workshops that led to this. However, I just wonder what was the rationale between of highlighting the $8 million project for excavating the Hensel Clearing landfill, as opposed to shoring it up and with rocks. Why?
This is Hensel Clearing. Through the chair, and unless my colleagues would like to respond, but through the chair, that was exactly your point previously, where we would be able to get money. We will apply for the money to actually, I think we would be applying for $6 million in terms of that, which would leave us a $2 million margin to do. There was quite a lengthy discussion about why that one. I think there were 5 that were quite vulnerable, is my understanding. That one was the one that we could get the funding for, that the majority of the funding. There is a high likelihood, but we can't guarantee, as your point made earlier. So that's why we put it forward for that discussion with the community to say, if we can't get the funding, we can't do it. But if we do and we apply for it, that's where we want to emphasise it. That's where we want to do it. I'm happy if there's any more technical component that can come up out of that, right?
Because I'm aware of how precarious that right on the beach. I know that the sea's been cutting around it. I know that the locals have rallied together and they put rock with themselves. And that's all that's required in my view. I don't think it requires a Fox Glacier excavation and truck it all up to Hartlepool landfill response. It's just crazy. Crazy. When you can just rock it up and until and just keep the sea from ripping it over.
And that may be well the response that we get from the consultation.
The point was why was that one highlighted? I just didn't quite get
Through the chair, because that's the one that is actually on the beach. It is the one that is most sedentarised, and it's the one that's easiest to clean up. The cost is not in the removal, the cost is in taking it from where it is to where it has to go to.
Yeah, I mean, if this went ahead, I'm getting into truck business. Because it's pretty lucrative.
Right, yes, sorry.
So anyway, that was that one.
I never think it's that easy, councillor.
So again, through your worship, the Wilderness Trail and the tables of expenditure on the Wilderness Trail, building up to over the course of 9 years of the long-term plan, building up to $700,000 a year. Tell me I misread.
I think you misread that. I think you misread that. You're saying the no, you're saying that, what are you saying, that there's expenditure $700,000 a year? No, you've misread it. I'm not sure where you've got that from.
We have through the chair, the Capital Works program has got included the Manapua boardwalk and some additional items for coaster funding. It's all around whether we can get some funding. But most of it's the Manapua boardwalk, which there is a funding option open for, but we had to put a full amount, same as
And again, if it falls back to the ratepayer to fund a portion of it, we won't be doing it. We are looking at funding options where we can use leverage to get access to the funding and find other avenues to support that.
So I draw your attention to the tables that are in, I can't find the page right now, but it's on under recreation toward the bottom of the LTP. And year 2034, because she's up to $700,000. I didn't pluck that figure in yet, it was out here. And it's from now, currently it's next year 400,000. I'm just trying to find that.
Maintenance or?
That's what I want to.
Orange squares is page 21.
Yeah, that on page.
Unfortunately, this is the discussions we should have been having at the time when we were reviewing it all.
It's a fundamental question, as to how much the ratepayers funding for this cycle trail is not going to cost the ratepayers anything, quote unquote.
We're all continuously putting in to manage grade rights for funding and maintenance support. There are certain items that we have to allow for here, like bridge replacements in the long term. They will be getting to that age then where they will need replacement. There should be funding available. We can't guarantee that. We still have to put in a lot to the for it.
Yep. Okay. And through the chair, I realise that these are valid points to raise, and perhaps there hasn't been the opportunity for you to have perhaps the detail that colleagues around the table have. More than happy to do a separate briefing all through these with you, if that would be helpful. We've got the consultation period, but we would more than be happy to do it. If you would.
No. Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm going to find that one.
So, so getting back to the adoption of the draft consultation document, the resolution is the report be received that Council adopt the draft long-term plan for 2025 to 2034 and consultation document, and Council direct staff to undertake consultation with the community. Can I have a mover and seconder please to that? Councillor Baird, thank you very much. Councillor Baird, all in favour? Against? Carried.
Huge document.
Thank you, Emma, for that. Thank you, everybody, for that. And there's a huge amount of work gone into this, so we do thank all staff that have contributed to this. These plans are never easy at the best of times. They involve a lot of focus, a lot of work, a lot of putting things to pieces and rebuilding. But they're a critical part of our foundation. So before we move on, I need to go back to the late agenda item, the establishment of a Water Services Internal Business Unit Local Water Done Well Resolution rescind. And I need to go back to within the approval of the mover and seconder for the resolution that was to receive the report, because we have an addition to add to that. And thanks, Penny, for getting that through to us. First one is that the report be received. The second point is that council alter the resolution to be that council approves to progress with the establishment of an internal business unit for the delivery of water services with an expectation that any alternative opportunities will be fully investigated. Council will consult separately to the 2025-2034 long-term plan on local water done well, and a decision paper will be brought back to council post-consultation. So we've got the heads around that. That is the closing point to that report that gave on the local water done well resolution rescind. Anybody want me to read that again so you've got your head around that? Do I have a mover and seconder, please, or do we do the current movers and seconders of receiving the report want to extend that to that second point? Down up to that page. Councillor Verdon and Councillor Monero? Happy with that? Yep. All right. Everybody else happy with that? All in favour to that being added? Sorry, that was missing at the time. Anybody against that? All right, carried. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for the amendment to come through. Di, you've got that in its fullness there. Right, thank you. Yes. So what we'll do now is we will have a brief break. We'll move into the, we'll have a break actually before we move into the public excluded section of the meeting.
Your worship, that cycle trail question was on page 121.
Page 121.
Cycle trail 2026, budget expenditure is $413,000. And 2034 is 750, which is just behind how much it costs for public toilets.
That would be taking into consideration some of those replacements, wouldn't it?
That is correct.
They have to be factored in. Thank you for clarifying that, Paul. Can I remove a second, please, resolve that council move into the public excluded section at 3:25? Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Burton, thank you very much. We'll adjourn for 2 minutes while that transition happens.